98.5 Speed FM.
Catch us if you can.
Stay here with you. You are a rainbow sun. I am a lucky one. I am a lucky one. You are my favorite song. I am a lucky one. I am a lucky one. I am a lucky one. Seasons change, but you're the same. Your love is constant. You've never lost it. Your voice is calling out my name. It makes me miss you, even when I'm with you. Oh, nobody wants to go it alone, and I just wanna stay here with you.
A speedy welcome to the show for everyone. This is the Speed Lane on Asking Radio 98.5 Speed FM. And I'm your host today on the show. My name is Marysyntia Hangeior, and the Speed Lane is where we talk about issues that affect our lives, our families, our communities, and the society at large. Now, today is Monday, the 6th day of April 2026, and our focus is on something that touches almost everyone in one way or the other. That is superstition in society. Should superstition still have a place in our modern lives? Now, superstition is basically beliefs or practices people follow thinking they can influence life through forces, beyond reason. Some superstitions are harmless and like knocking on wood or even avoiding maybe a black cat, but others go deeper and can affect choices in health, education, work, and even how we treat each other. Now, today on the Speed Lane, we are asking that simple question: should superstition still have a place in modern life? Do we still need to follow such kind of beliefs, some which are absolutely ridiculous, handed down from generations, or are some of these beliefs stopping us from making smart, safe decisions? Are people missing opportunities because they are too afraid of some kind of maybe bad luck or some superstitious consequences? Now, you also can call in to be part of this conversation, and the number for you to call is 090 3648 5868. That is 090 3648 5868. We are talking about superstition in society today on the Speed Lane. So what do you think? Should superstition still have a place in modern life? Many people follow superstitions every day, without even thinking about it. Some do it for comfort, some do it because it's maybe their tradition, some because they genuinely fear those consequences. But when we look closer, Superstition sometimes can actually affect important aspects of lives, because talking about some superstitions that people actually believe, some of these things that actually come up and then affect the way that we live. Some people believe that success or even failure depends on some kind of superstition, maybe some kind of spiritual force, and not effort. This can make people even work less hard or even blame some of these things, instead of learning from mistakes. Instead of actually working hard, some people will blame that, okay, whatever I had to do with success. When they see someone who is maybe successful, they just attribute the whole thing. It's because of this so charm, it's because of this spirit, it's because of this, that person is who they are or what they are, instead of working hard to actually attain maybe the same height or even almost the same height that person have. They just attribute that whole thing to whatever superstitious belief that they have when it comes to success. And that is something that actually limits people from working hard or even making wise decisions. Imagine someone just relaxing because they feel like, well, I have this belief that has been passed on for generations that getting this level of success cannot be done. It's not ordinary. People see someone who has worked maybe even silently for years, but because that person is suddenly shining, people say things like, okay, it's because of this so charm, like something that has been passed on from our forefathers for generations. They say that for someone to actually be this successful, then it has to do with one of those superstitious beliefs that they have. Now, you also can call in to be part of this conversation. And the number for you to call is 090-3648-5868. That is 090-3648-5868. Should superstition still have a place in modern society? Should all these things that they say, well, if you clap 3 times, this is going to happen to you, or if you do this, well, this is going to happen. If someone is rich, if someone is successful, then it's because they went through that charm. Or is it just hard work? And also, even in health, it's not just about success. Even in health, there are people who believe that. Hello?
Hello?
Yes, good morning. All right, you can still call us back. Number for you to call is 090-3648-5868. That is 090-3648-5868. This morning on the Speed Lane, we are talking about superstition and society. Should superstition still have a place in modern life? Call in and let us hear from you. Let us hear from your experiences, your observation, just your opinion in general. Let us hear from you this morning on the Speed Lane. And I was talking about how in health, superstition can even stop people from maybe even seeking proper medical care. Some persons are sick, someone might even be avoiding going to the hospital because there's some kind of maybe warning or something that is dangerous, something that says maybe you should not even get someone else's blood, or you should not be able to save your life. Most of these improvements or some of these advancements have actually come to actually help us to make sure that people are not losing their lives to certain kind of illnesses that can actually be tackled. But then for some kind of superstitious belief, someone refuses to have medical treatment because they have this belief that you're not supposed to maybe touch a needle, a doctor is not supposed to touch you, a doctor from the hospital is not supposed to touch you, or this is going to happen, or this is going to happen. So what about all the other people who have been receiving this treatment? Even when treatments could actually save some lives, some people are so blinded, or some people are so into these superstitious beliefs that they don't think that it's necessary for them to actually go through certain treatment because of what they believe. So call in and let us hear from you. And if you have just joined us, this is the Speed Lane on Asking Radio 98.5 Speed FM. And I'm your host on the show. My name is Marysyntia Hangeior, and we are talking about superstition and society. Now, you also can call in to be part of this conversation and tell us, should superstition still have a place in modern life? And number for you to call is 090-3648-5868. That is 090-3648-5868. 5868. Superstitions still have a place in modern society, and tell us some of those ones that you've actually heard, maybe ones that maybe you actually believe, but then at some point you got to a point where you realize, okay, maybe I'm probably just wasting my time, or I'm probably just leaning into darkness and I don't even know what I'm doing. Some of those ones, what are some of those things that you actually hear and you think that, okay, people believe this, maybe it's out of ignorance. Now, this is not to say that, okay, some people's cultures, because some persons try to attach, okay, this is from our culture, but then we have come away. Some of these things, when they say it's culture or it's tradition, there are people who actually set this. People like us in the past who actually said something like this, who actually came up one day and said, well, anybody who has gotten rich like this, or anybody who is successful, is because they use this particular black soap that we kept, or anyone who gets sick shall not go to the hospital because we have this is what will decide whether you leave or you stay, and it's going to actually help you get well or help you even meet your end, when some of these medical treatments are there to actually help people, when they face situations like this. So call in and let us hear from you. Number for you to call is 090 3648 5868. That is 090 3648 5868. Should superstition still have a place in modern life? Call in and let us hear from you. What are those superstitions that you have heard that you actually you think that it's out of maybe even ignorance, that people actually believe some of these things and even let it to affect their lives? And tell us what you think about these superstitions in general. Should they still have a place in modern life? Should we still allow some of these things actually alter the way we live, the kind of the way we allow ourselves to enjoy the things, the advancement that has come, some of the things that are there for our own benefits? Because what does it mean, what does it get to a point where someone is refusing even medical treatment because they believe a certain kind of thing, or they believe that, okay, they are supposed to be saved by some kind of fault, even when those help, that help is there right in front of them. And that is not all. It doesn't just stop at when it comes to successes or even medical health. Sometimes even gender-based superstitions can affect, like maybe believing boys or girls are cursed or even luckier. Some persons believe that, okay, people from certain kind of groups, they are cursed. People who clearly appear to be okay, like people who appear to be okay, somehow is believed that as long as this person is from this place, this person is cursed and you should not be doing business with this person. Imagine finding someone that is supposed to maybe help your life, and somehow you have a belief from years and years ago that you're not supposed to do business with this person, you're not supposed to do this, or even shaping who goes to school. There are some superstitions that say it is a taboo for maybe a boy to go to school or maybe a girl to go to school. There are different things, some of those superstitions that are there, that even when it has come to this age, some people still allow it to actually influence or even affect their life. So call in and let us hear from you this morning on the Speed Lane. Should superstitions still have a place in our modern lives? Number for you to call is 090 3648 5868. That is 090 3648 5868. Call in and let us hear from you. We are talking about superstitions in society. Let us hear those experiences. Let us hear what you see, because people often experience things, people often see things, and sometimes people believe certain things to the extent that even when it's not happening, your mind is able to trick you that something like this is happening, or something like this is taking control, or I have to go through this measure also to be successful. I have to use some of these things to be successful, making it even hard to believe when you see someone that is doing it, doing well for themselves, making it hard to believe that, okay, this person actually did that without any of those beliefs, that there is something else that is supporting. It makes it hard for people to even believe that something like that is possible, limiting their own selves from doing well, limiting them to actually use some of these things that have even been advanced, for us to actually use and make our lives better. So call in and let us hear from you. Number for you to call is 090 3648 5868. That is 090 3648 5868. We're talking about superstition in society. Should these superstitions still have a place in our modern lives? Imagine how far we have come. Imagine how far things have gone. Do you think that these superstitions should still have a place? Hello? All right, you can still call us back. Number for you to call is 090 3648 5868. Should superstition still have a place in modern life? Some of those things, there are some that are actually harmless. So even when you hear about them, like maybe you don't take it seriously, but then you don't do anything about it. Like when they say, okay, if you clap 3 times, this is going to hear you. If you look back in the night, this is actually going to happen. This is that one. Or you're not supposed to do this. You're not supposed to cross the person's leg because, when you cross the person's leg, it stops you from doing this. It stops you from doing. There are different of them. Now, while some of them are actually harmless, there are some that places something on our mentality that makes people, that stops people from actually moving forward, from actually striving to be better, from actually enjoying some of these things that have been improved in life for our own benefit, like the medical help that we spoke about. So call in and let us hear from you. Number for you to call is 090 3648 5868. That is 090 3648 5868. Should superstition still have a place in our modern life? Should they still have a place with the way that we have come, with the way everyone is claiming, okay, we have gotten wiseness, we have gotten wiser, like it's not like before, but then people still say things like that. They say, no, that thing is not ordinary. No, this person's success is not ordinary. This is that one is, there are different things that actually sway down, slow down how we are actually supposed to be striving to be successful, or even striving to do other things, because people believe that, okay, it doesn't come ordinary, or the hard work itself is not going to pay off except you go through some of those things that you actually believe that you have to go through before you become successful. Now there's something else where sometimes a child is born. Families sometimes even interpret a child's birth condition. A child is born maybe for instance with even a brain damage. Hello? Yes, good morning.
Good morning, Marysyntia.
Yeah, tell us your name and where you're calling from.
Yes, Lord Calculus, thank you. Good morning to you.
All right. Good morning to you too, Lord Calculus.
Happy Easter.
Happy Easter to you too. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
We are talking about superstitions.
Yes, should superstition still have a place in modern society? That's the question, right?
Yes.
Okay, the short answer is no.
Okay.
No is the answer. But first of all, what is superstition? What is superstition? Superstition is believing that certain objects, action based on science and political power instead of something else. That is people believe in other people putting their thoughts in law. That is superstition. Example, people will say this child will protect you. Yes, that is an example of superstition.
Okay.
Or if I don't do this ritual, that luck will come.
Yes.
Some persons will say this day is unlucky, maybe Sunday, they say Friday, or maybe I see this person in the morning, or if I see a man set, I see a man set, that is the day is not going to go away for me. That is the superstition.
Yes.
Yes. So I want to look at this from the biblical point of view. I think that's the way I look at it, since you allow me to do that. So what does the Bible say? First, I want to make us know that God will give superstition and court practices. Like for example, in Deuteronomy, if you look at chapter 18, from 18 to 12, the Bible says charm and omens are condemned. That is, the Bible condemns all this kind of thing. In fact, the Bible, God calls them abomination. 2, church should be involved in them. Yes, church should be involved in them. Like for example, in the book of Proverbs chapter 3 verse 5. So trust in the Lord with all your heart, not in other things, but in God with all your heart. So you should not put your trust in things, other things like material, everything. I think that is part of putting trust in other things like God is superstition.
Yes.
The superstition Superstition is trust in God.
Oh, okay. We cannot hear you anymore, Lord Calculus, but you can still call us back. This is the Speed Lane on Asking Radio 98.5 Speed FM. And I'm your host on the show. My name is Marysyntia Hangeior. And this morning, we are talking about superstition in society. Now, superstition, like he said, is basically beliefs or practices, people follow thinking they can influence through forces beyond reason. Some superstitions, like we said, are harmless, like knocking on wood or even avoiding black cats, but others go deeper and can affect choices, even in health, even in education, even in work, in our lives in general. So you also can call in to be part of this conversation and tell us what you think. Should superstition still have a place in modern life? And the number for you to call is 090 3648 5868. That is 090 3648 5868. Call in and let us hear from you. Should superstition still have a place in modern lives, in our modern lives, in how far we have come? Do you think that superstition should still have a place? Call in and let us hear from you. And we heard from Lord Calculus, we heard a bit of what he said before he left, and he said no. Because instead of trusting God, according to beliefs, because people have different beliefs, right? And he says that it is completely wrong, because instead of trusting God, you're trusting that, okay, this object, this card signifies this, or this card signifies that I should not go and then get that job that is going to better my life. And he even quoted the Bible. So, well, you can go look through that as well, if your beliefs, align with what he says. And he mentioned about trusting in God alone, but then people allow certain things to actually affect their life or even influence the decisions that they say. He gave so many examples, like someone saying that no, that you have maybe an exam to write today, and somehow maybe some superstitious belief says that if a white bird passes from the sky 3 times, you're not supposed to write that exam again. And somehow someone is able to fall into things like that, and people go to as far as they actually believe some of these things to the extent that, okay, it actually kind of seems true to them. Like they start looking at it that, okay, that when it's a coincidence, so people just say, okay, this is what I was talking about, this is what it means, or this is why I said that this was going to happen. Anything to just justify a certain kind of superstitious belief. So let us hear from you this morning. Should superstition still have a place in our modern lives? Call in and let us hear from you. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, tell us your name and where you're calling from.
Lord Calculus is calling back.
All right, welcome back to the show, Lord Calculus.
Okay, so like I was saying earlier on, superstition is fear-based beliefs that are not from God. Like example, like I was saying in 2 Timothy chapter 1 verse 7, say God has not given us the spirit of fear. So you can see that most superstition is fear-driven. Yeah, so example, like if you look at the Bible, examples from the scripture, like in the book of Acts chapter 19 verse 18 to 19, people who believe in magic, if you look at, they confess their sin because they believe in magic, and that is also part of superstition. And most of them burn their words, chants and books. That says that they completely rejected superstition after knowing Christ. So, in conclusion, superstition has no place in modern life led by faith in God.
Okay, all right.
It competes with God's trust and authority. So we should not have a place in modern life because it's indirectly competing with God.
Okay.
Taking the place of God. So totally, completely I say no.
Okay.
No superstition, no.
All right. So, Lord Calculus, how do you think that allowing these superstitious beliefs to actually control one's life affects them?
Okay, that's a good question. I think first of all, if you're looking about the effects, right?
Yes.
Okay, so if I'm talking about the effect, I think the first effect is like I earlier say, they take the place of it to remove the trust from God. That is, they don't put their trust in God.
Okay.
Yes, that's the first effect. They don't believe in God. They always believe in those things, and it is not. It's one of the, I think, the main effect. Yeah, that's the main effect. Then the second effect is that it replaces faith with fear.
Okay.
Yes, it replaces faith with fear.
Okay.
And that is also not good.
All right.
Then another one, it produces fear and bondage.
Okay. Yes, bondage.
Yes, people live in constant anxiety. So that is another effect.
All right. All right.
And then I think another effect, it opens doors to deception. It opens doors to deception. Superstition can lead people to occultic practices, false prophets, spiritual manipulations. And then it leads to wrong decisions. People may avoid opportunity to say it is bad luck. Or make irrational choices. Depend on science instead of wisdom. And then it also seeks glory from God, like I said earlier on.
Okay.
Yeah, so basically those are the effects I can think of for now.
All right, all right. Thank you so much, Lord Calculus, for calling in to be part of the show this morning. This is the Speed Lane on Asking Radio 98.5 Speed FM. And I'm your host on the show. My name is Marysyntia Hangeior. And this morning we are talking about superstition and society. And the question is, does superstition or should superstition still have a place in our modern lives? Now, you also can call in to be part of this conversation. And the number for you to call is 090 3648 5868. That is 090 3648 5868. Call in and let us hear from you. Let us hear your opinion, what you think, and some of those superstitious beliefs that you actually hear and you just feel like it's out of ignorance, and you feel like it actually makes people to not move forward, to not grow, and things like that. Call in and let us hear from you. And we heard from Lord Calculus once again, and he mentions that superstitions are actually, for a believer, for someone who says that they are a Christian, then he actually competes with God. So some persons say, yeah, I believe in God, but then they are doing they have some of these beliefs intact. So yes, he competes with that. And he mentions other effects about constant anxiety, because how many times are you going to feel afraid because a black cat passed and you're not going for that interview again, something that was supposed to better your life, or you're not going to work hard again because when you were building your house there were 3 birds that actually sat on the fence, and then it meant something, so you're going to scatter that and then not build it again. You're not going to grow your business because you believe that, okay, in your family line you're supposed to stop at this particular stage of wealth or even riches. You're not supposed to do more than that, because if you do, well, there's something attached to it. Now, that is not to say that some people's cultures, like I mentioned before, because some things, some cultures, maybe it's just preserving, or things that have been kept in place, right, even before this generation we actually came, and then some of them are actually good. Some of them protect even the peace or even the unity of a people, just use as identity. But some of those things, some of these superstitious beliefs actually hold people back. Should they still have a place in our modern lives? Number for you to call is 090 3648 5868. That is 090 3648 5868. Call in and let us hear from you this morning on the Speed Lane, and tell us if you think that these superstitions should still have a place in our modern lives. Tell us, you can give us examples, because a lot of things, one day you're just on your own and someone suddenly says, well, you're clapping with the back of your hands, and what this means is this is going to happen. You're not supposed to step out again. Hello. What this means is you're not supposed to step out again. What this means is you're not supposed to do this. Or, there are certain things or different things that just come up. Maybe someone probably just said it once and then it became a thing that everyone actually believes or everyone is actually scared of. And also that reminds me of what Lord Calculus says about superstition being fear-based beliefs, because everyone is scared. If I don't do this, there is this thing that is absolutely human to actually think that for me to stay around and find out if it's possible for this not to happen, it's better I should not do it at all, because I don't want to find out if it's truly going to happen or it's not going to happen. But for how long are people going to let some of these superstitious beliefs just take over their lives or even limit them from growing? Hello,
good morning.
Yes, good morning. Tell us your name and where you're calling from.
Okay, this is Sylvester Baba 75 from Medbank.
Welcome to the show, Baba 75.
Superstition, why it can never be erased in our society. Before the coming of Christianity or before the coming of religion, this is from the Holy God. Our forefathers, this is their own type of worship. They believe in superstition, right, for no reason. Now, a generation question.
Okay, you're going to have to call us back, sir, and maybe move to a place where there isn't too much of air because it's really noisy over there, and I think because of the breeze. So call us back again, Baba 75. Number for you to call is 090 3648 5868. That is 090 3648 5868. Hello.
The same Sylvester Baba 75.
All right, go on, sir.
What I was saying, the problem with the superstition, why it can never go out of our society. Now, no matter how Christianity circulates around the world, not everybody is going to be a Christian. Are you getting my point?
Okay.
People within their traditional worship, their traditional religion, they are there from morning to night. No matter how Christianity is being preached all over the world today. Are you getting my point?
Yes.
So with this superstitious belief, they cannot go away from it. For example, look at Apostle Paul during their ministry. When they went to one certain place in Ephesus, there was a guy with the master who has the spirit of divination.
Okay.
The guy that possesses that spirit of divination always predict for people. Any time of tomorrow to become a fortune teller to so many people, and the owners of that girl were making profit from her. Those kind of superstitious beliefs had been in existence before the Christian era, and the traditional religion continue in our own time up to today and tomorrow. There is no way, even government cannot make law to stop any type of worship.
Okay.
Because the law in government today give everybody freedom of worship, right? So as far as freedom of worship exists, superstitious belief will continue to exist along with the Christianity or whatever religion that could exist.
Okay.
Right?
All right.
So to say it's going to go out of our society because of modern life, I don't think it's possible.
All right. All right. Thank you so much, Baba 75, for calling in to be part of the show this morning. This is the Speed Lane on Asking Radio 98.5 Speed FM. And I'm your host on the show. My name is Marysyntia Hangeior. And this morning we are talking about superstition in society. And the number for you to call is 090 3648 5868. Call in and let us hear from you. Should superstition still have a place in our modern life? Should this still be something that we prioritize or we actually lean onto in our modern lives? Now, Baba 75 mentioned about some of these superstitious beliefs, actually have roots from different traditions that people come from, and then you cannot erase those traditions. You cannot erase traditions that have actually been there, from time being. So saying that it would actually leave society, the whole superstitions actually leave society, then it becomes impossible because people are still rooted, or some people grew up actually believing that this is the way. So they will actually keen into whatever superstitious beliefs actually follow their traditions. So it becomes something that everyone has to do on their own. Everyone has to open their eyes. Like I said earlier, some of these cultures or some of these things that are set, which says maybe if a boy is born, or if this, or every market day we are supposed to do this, or we are supposed to flog all the women. That is something that someone actually sat down somewhere and then said, we are going to do, or someone back then actually said, for whatever reason that they have. Now, coming to the modern society, some persons do not actually know what that stands for, or what that rule or whatever was put there was actually meant to do, but then they just follow blindly. But then if it actually stops, there are some cultures, there are some beliefs that have actually been stopped. Maybe, as growing up, as modernization comes in, people are getting to realize that, this is something that doesn't actually impact, or maybe it's actually only doing us harm, it's only doing this to us, and they have actually been stopped or actually been forgotten, but then nothing happens. But then there are people who are deep into it that believe, like the example that I mentioned, that okay, we are supposed to flog men every Tuesday of the week. We are supposed to just do that. So what does that signify? It becomes something that we have to do personally. Everyone has to maybe clear their minds from inside, or know that okay, it's possible to actually work hard and then achieve something without having some of those something that somehow is inside your superstitious belief, without going through some of those processes that you believe, or to actually seek medical treatment, to actually get some things without believing. Is something that everyone has to do from inside. If it's hindering your progress, well, if it's hindering the way you're supposed to, maybe even hindering you from attaining that level of success or even good living, then it's something that we can actually do by ourselves. Just like Baba 75 mentioned, it's not something that even the government can say, okay, nobody should believe that when you clap 3 times, this is going to happen. It is something that a person does on his or her own, because we cannot stop you from believing, okay, a black cat does this, or it means that I should not go for my job interview. But at the end of the day, you're the only person who is going to maybe suffer that consequence of not going for that interview, because there were 3 birds that passed, or someone slapped you, or this happened, and then it should just maybe I'm not supposed to do this thing, I'm not supposed to do that, or I'm supposed to attribute this kind of success to a certain kind of belief that I have, because there was a black cat, or there was this, or there was that. So call in and let us hear from you. Number for you to call is 090 3648 5868. That is 090 3648 5868. We're talking about superstition and society this morning on the speed lane, and I was talking about how some persons, actually there is this thing where maybe a child is born with a condition, maybe even a brain damage. That is something that is very common, even a brain damage, and instead of maybe allowing that child to go through the proper medical care, then they say, okay, it's a child that was given by this particular family that is caused, or it is a child that is sent to actually destroy this. Instead of allowing that child to go through maybe the proper medical care, then they just tag it, okay, this one was given. Some things, people call it differently in their languages, people call it differently, without even getting or even responding, allowing that child to have the opportunity to maybe even go through treatment and eventually getting better. They just attribute it, okay, this child was caused, or this child was is someone that came from maybe a kind of spiritual realm or something. There are different things that people blame, or even these medical conditions that we actually have names to. There are things that people say, okay, this is the cause, or this child is like this child is like, making it harder for children living with some of these disabilities to actually live, to actually function, because they are often, that stigmatization, they are often being placed at a different part in society and saying, okay, it's because this person is this person. I cannot call all of those names, but then people have different words that they refer to, maybe in their languages, in their dialects, different ways that they say, okay, nobody should associate with this child because he or she is this. But maybe in reality, that child is probably only suffering a brain damage, or is suffering some kind of medical condition that proper treatment would have been able to stop. So call in and let us hear from you this morning on the speed lane. Hello. Number for you to call is 090 3648 5868. That is 090 3648 5868. We're talking about superstition in society. Should superstition still have a place in our modern lives? Call in and let us hear from you. Call in and let us hear. And there was something about, okay, some time ago, maybe in some cultures where they will say twins actually mean this, and then they're supposed to get rid of one. So what happened when that changed? What happened to the twins? Nothing happened. People saw that, okay, it came to a point where we realized, okay, twins don't actually mean this, and it doesn't mean something bad, and we started accepting twins. But somehow people are still scared of accepting other ones, because they don't know what might happen, and that fear of not knowing what would actually happen or what might happen is what draws a lot of people back. Or where they say, okay, if someone gave birth to this amount of children, it means that maybe someone gave birth to quadruplets, then it means that they are supposed to get rid of one. But then we came to a point in society where that stopped happening, for the most part. It stopped happening in most places, and then nothing happens. So why not think about the possibilities of even taking our mindset off some of those other things that are actually still holding us back or even doing damage to us in society, and then trying to get rid of it? Because someone said it in the past, maybe it meant something, but you who came in this generation and doesn't even know what it means, somehow still conforms to it. And for some of these people who actually believe these things, they have, maybe it's people who even believe in God, but then a little of their hands is still leaning or even reaching for some of these superstitious beliefs. So call in and let us hear from you. Number for you to call is 090 3648 5868. That is 090 3648 5868. We are talking about superstition in society. So call in and let us hear from you. Tell us if you think that superstition should still have a place in our modern lives with how far we have come. Hello.
Hello, Baba Sylvester, again back to you.
All right, welcome back to the show, Baba Sylvester.
The matter of interest is what we are discussing. Look, let me tell you one thing. There are millions of people who believe, say they are Christians today. They go to various churches, right? So they believe on this superstition. See, remain with them. For example, the word of God told us plainly that anybody who dies, his spirit has gone to God. He has no conscience of anything again. But so many people, so many traditions, so many languages in Nigeria believe, say the person who dies, the spirit is not around with us, it's around us. Anything we are talking, the person is carrying us. All those kind of superstitious beliefs. Even for those who profess to be Christians, who go to various churches, they still believe in these things because they believe, say, their grandfather. This is what has been happening right from the time of their grandfathers, right?
Okay.
Imagine that kind of superstitious belief that the Almighty Creator who created man tell you this is the make of a man. The man is on the dust. When once he dies, he goes back to the dust. But many people who believe they are Christians today, they don't believe all those things. Despite the fact that they carry Bible. Because the problem with so many religions today, not knowing the truth and getting the accurate knowledge of the truth. That is one of the biggest problems today that is worrying so many people.
Okay.
Because Jesus himself, you remember the word of Jesus in John chapter 8, verse 31 and 32. Jesus said, if you are going to follow me, obey my word. And it will see you. In verse 32, he said, you will know the truth. And the truth will set you free. That knowing the truth is having the accurate knowledge of the scripture. Then application of it follows into that accurate knowledge.
Okay.
That's why you're going to be free from all these superstitious beliefs. Without knowing the truth, you cannot free yourself. That is what is holding them to bondage to them tomorrow. Even though they believe in going to the church, they carry Bible, they tell you their name is that, they are Christian, they are this. But still yet, they haven't got the accurate knowledge of the truth. So superstition, still continue with them.
All right.
You understand?
All right.
If the Almighty Creator tell you, say, any man who dies is no more conscious of anything that is happening on the surface of the earth. But the people who tell you today they are church goers, they tell you, say, the person who dies, he's there for a burial ground. He's still seeing us. He's listening to all of us. Can you just believe?
Okay.
You are not superstitious. Are you? Oh, those are funny things too.
All right, all right.
So the area of faith will go away from our society, even until the kingdom of God comes. That is when it will wipe out, not now.
All right.
As far as human exists.
All right. All right. Thank you so much, Baba Sylvester, for calling in once again to be part of the show. It's the Speed Lane on Asking Radio 98.5 Speed FM. And I'm your host on the show. My name is Marysyntia Hangeior, and we are talking about superstition and society. You also can call in quickly before we go to be part of the show. And the number for you to call is 090 3648 5868. That is 090-3648-5868. And we heard from Baba Sylvester once again, and he is stressing on the fact that the note that it's possible that this superstition, actually never leave society, which even makes it more clear that it's something everyone has to do on their own, or at least pay more attention to things that make more sense to you. Do your research, but then people just want to believe whatever is put to their faces. They say, okay, if you give birth to twins and then you don't get rid of one, then your family is going to be cursed. And someone doesn't check what are the odds, or what is actually true in that. How true can that be? And they just go ahead and maybe even get rid of one child. So it becomes something that we must do on our own, that we must get rid of on our own, and know that, okay, you can actually attain something too. You can actually get to that level of success that person has, that person that you're looking up to, without looking for whatever. There are sometimes that maybe even people who are successful get approached and be like, well, help me with whatever you're using so I can use it too. You're stingy with what you're using, and if time is not taken, that person put in hard work, for years silently, but someone just comes in and expects, okay, cut the soap for me as well. And even like I was saying, when it comes to maybe children born with imagine a child born with like maybe Down syndrome. I've heard people say that this person is a this, or this person, it means that the family is cursed. Or maybe a child that is born with even autism or even cerebral palsy, and then people just say it means that this child is this. Someone who needs medical care, someone who needs that level of attention for them to even get better, for them to even live normally in a society, but somehow it is tagged that, okay, this child means bad luck for the family, or this child means this, and a whole lot of things that just clouds our judgments and even setbacks our mentality, making it harder for people to actually grow, to actually improve, even intellectually and even physically. Like that improvement, that growth that we need, everybody talks on. And if you look at the people who are maybe even successful and doing better for themselves, they had to put some of these things aside. They had to know that it is not impossible for me to get to this height. And whatever people are saying about I have to do this, I have to before I get to this height, it's not true. It's not true. So let us be careful. Let us be mindful with the kind of beliefs that we have, with some of these things that were put in, were made even before we were born. And we are still allowing them to even limit the way that we live our lives today. And superstition has been a part of human life for centuries. It can give comfort, guide traditions, and even provide a sense of identity for some. But when it stops us from making informed, safe, or fair decisions, it becomes dangerous. And that is what we don't want of our society. So by talking openly, questioning beliefs that may harm, and respecting those that don't, society can move forward while still honoring heritage. So as you go about the rest of your day, don't forget to remember that your choices matter, your actions matter, and understanding the difference between caution, culture, and superstition is a step forward toward a safer, wiser, and fairer society. And I've been with you on the speed lane this morning. My name is Marysyntia Hangeior. Coming up next at 10 a.m. is King James 90s Top 10, right here on Asking Radio 98.5 Speed FM. And until then, keep enjoying music of your life.
Do you have a business, an organization,